Alright, Ceramics 1. We need to start making our pieces, and this is just a video how to get to create the basic forms. I'm having one of those days. This is the third time I've had to do this video. Alright, but in this video, we're going to go through how to make a plate and a bowl with a slump mold. So if you're not doing the plate, you can kind of fast forward that part and go to the bowl. Now keep in mind, we're doing a pair. You can choose two of plate, cup, bowl, mug, serving dish, or you could do something else if you want. Make sure your work was inspired by a known artist and you have a plan. Part of that plan would be choosing your glaze, low fire or high fire. Remember, low fire is predictable, it's very bright, and it doesn't move. You can layer it. So if I put purple on top of the white, the purple is going to show us through as long as I do 3 layers of purple. So I can be very precise with low fire glazes. High fire glazes are a little less predictable. They move, they mix, but you get some interesting textures from that. So it just depends what you want. One isn't necessarily better than the other. So make sure you do have your planning page. Unified pair, method is slab and slump mold. I've got several sketches. My artist is Sam Chung. I'm inspired by his cloud curves, the shape of those, and the strong lines. So, if you want to make a plate or bowl, this is the video for you. We've done slabs before, so we're going to go through it. Now when you're choosing a bowl, make sure there's not a foot on here or a lot of texture on the bottom. If you slump it this way, you're going to slump it on the bottom, it will pick up anything on there. So if there was a foot, it would put that foot into the bottom of your bowl, the usable part, the part you want to use. Now a lot of you in your artist studies, one of the biggest sticking points we had was rolling out a slab and then finding you didn't have enough clay. My tendency is to use too much clay. So get enough clay. Now if your clay was dry, what you would do is break it up into chunks and sprinkle some water in there and then wedge it all together like this. Pushing down, pulling up, pushing down, pulling up, and getting it worked into one large mass again. So work your clay, get it soft, get it moving, and then pat it into a nice ball. We don't want to start out with cracks. And then once you've got that nice ball, we squish it into our, what is it, a thick pancake. Now, in our dreams, we are rolling with a rolling pin because that's nice and wide. I know most of us are not working in ideal situations, so I have my trusty jar. Find something that is a straight cylinder and as wide as you can, perhaps a water bottle or something. Do take the time to get the creases out of your fabric because they will add unwanted texture to your slab. And you can see I'm already doing that with my jar rolling pin. Now this time, go for a 1/4 inch thick. We learned a lot from last time rolling a larger slab, and most of us erred on the caution of thicker. Some of you got some beautiful slabs. So I'm going to work this time extra hard on making it not too thick, since this is my second time. We also don't want it too thin, of course. If I was going to make a mistake, I would make it a touch too thick. Now it's getting thin. See, it's definitely big enough. I'm rolling it more now because I want to get it thinner. I do not want a heavy, clunky plate. And then card it. Card it smooth. Take your time. Do both sides. Card in multiple directions. and just work all those creases and cracks out. It's going to make your finished work a lot nicer. I'm not saying you won't have to card it again at some point. But you're going to save yourself a lot of trouble if you're working with bumpy clay all the way. You're definitely not going to get a nice end product. Okay, now don't do this. Don't put it on the plate. Don't do that. Mistake, mistake, mistake. Because it could very well stick to the plate. I made that mistake. I was going too quickly, so I had to roll a whole new slab and do it all again. Because what we need is plastic between the slab and the plate. Otherwise, there is danger that the clay sticks to the plate or the bowl or whatever the mold is, and you end up damaging it as you take it apart. So the thinner the plastic, the better. Now, if you don't have plastic wrap around, you can just use any plastic shopping bag. Just cut it down to a nice square size, right, and that'll work. Then take your slab and gently set it onto your plate. Easy enough, right? Then we have this beautiful plate. We chose it for a reason. We like the shape. So we need to get that slab much tighter on the plate. So with wet fingers, just gently press that in. Get it right to the edges. Just kind of lift and then press. And with everything's in ceramics, you know, yes, this looks simple enough, but take your time, do it well. All right, and the lip as well, get that pressed on. Then we have to trim this excess, which is a bit of a hassle with that plastic on there. So don't like the knife. Try the card. The card's a bit, it works. You're going to have a pretty rough edge. You can do it. So eventually I go to a paper clip, and look at how much easier that is. I'll keep it straight up and down so we get kind of a similar cut all the way around. But as long as I press it against the plate, it slides really nice. That'll save me a little work later. There's going to be some cleanup, you know there always is. And there we go. Now we need to get this hard enough to hold its shape. Okay, let's go to a bowl. Let's say you want to do a bowl. Same thing, roll your slab, card it smooth. Again, make sure there's not anything major on the bottom. There's little marks on there, but nothing I can't easily card out. Now be careful when you're doing this. I'm cutting it very, very close. If you're new to this, I would put the whole slab on and then trim the obvious extra around that. That was actually kind of a risky move there. Alright, so now I've got to get some plastic. Again, cut it down to size. Don't put the whole thing on there. And now I'm going to drape my slab over. Now this is much harder than a plate. Okay, it's not going to just slide on there nice because there's excess clay. Now here's what you need to do. This will help a lot if you can elevate this. So I'm going to take my trusty jar, set the bowl on top. That'll make it a little bit easier to work with. I mean, it kind of slides around, but I can get my hands down lower than if the bowl was on the table. Now this is not going to go easy. Start from the top and just start pushing down. What's going to happen is you're going to see it starts to bunch because we have more clay than we need. You can see right on the end, right here. starting to bunch up like that. But just kind of go to the top, keep working down, rotate it, push, maybe pull a little. Real delicate though. Now, eventually, you might get to a point where it bunches up, where it pinches together, maybe more than you want, and that's okay. We'll carve that out later. This is the best I've ever done doing this. Actually, usually I have much more trouble. Maybe it's the shape of the bowl. I don't know, or maybe just that I've done it a bunch of times. Okay, so just keep working it, top to bottom. Take your time. Try not to get frustrated. All right, you can see in here where it's going to pinch. Right in there, it's getting there, and there's a little pinch. That's not bad. Again, that's the best I've ever done. So I can work that out easy. If you have a bigger pinch, that's fine. We'll work it out. Okay, now I got to trim again. So take my paper clip, push it up to the edge of the bowl. I'm just going to kind of work my way around. That plastic makes it slightly difficult, but just be gentle. You can see it's a little messy in places where the plastic is bunched up. So push it up against the edge of the bowl and then just drag it around. My top hand is kind of trying to keep that slab from sliding. It wants to slide because it's loosely on there. There we go. Got that. Now press it down. Make sure we're getting the shape we want. Now, since we need this to get hard now. Not leather hard, but hard enough to hold its shape. So what I'm going to do is, instead of wrapping it up, I'm going to tent it. I'm trying a little carding here, trying to get some of those pinch places out. But generally speaking, I like to wait. If you're very delicate, you can do some of that now. So instead of wrapping it up, I'm going to tent it overnight. And that just means opening up the bag and setting it on top of my clay. You can see there's openings in the bottom. The air can get in the bottom, but it's mostly covered. And I let this sit for about 18 hours, I want to say. Maybe, yeah, that sounds about right. And then in the morning, ba-doom. Now it's not leather hard yet, but it's hard enough to hold its shape. Now it's not just going to slide out, unfortunately. We got to do a little pulling, and I'm going to pull out on that plastic a little to try to separate it. It doesn't take too much though for this one. There we go. And you can see there's some texture in there. There's some work to do, but that's not a bad shape. Pretty happy with it. I wanted to get a little bit harder though, so I'm going to set it back on the mold. I'll let it dry out a little more. Now my plate, I have to confess, I forgot to wrap it at all. It sat out 100% exposed all night long. So here's what I'm going to do. It's definitely hard enough. It's too hard, in fact. Not totally dry though. So here's what you can do if you run into this situation, is get some wet paper towels. Right, that's a nice shape. And they are wet, they're soaked. And I'm going to put it on the plate. So you just wrap your piece in a wet paper towel. Wrap it up, and then I'm going to put that in a plastic bag. And I'll check on that in a few hours or overnight, see how it's doing. Hopefully it rehydrates. All right, so you have your basic shapes now. Congratulations. Gotta feel good about that. We'll talk about tidying up and cleaning up, adding our designs. But I think you guys know the drill here. You know the drill here. All right, so I can't wait to see the results. Have a terrific day, afternoon, and I just got to figure out how to stop the video. Oh man. It is recording. Come on, video. Where are you?